I just rode Tianas Bayou Adventure for the first time ever, and let me tell you, I am absolutely drenched, like soaking wet. Wow. Friends, I came out to the Magic Kingdom to ride Tianas Bayou Adventure, spoiler free. The last thing that I saw was the Disney Imagineering episode 1, and I said, I don't want to see any more. I want to go in and see what it's like, and oh, did I get drenched. I have now rode Tianas Bayou Adventure 4 times and went through a 5th time just to check out the queue. I'm here to give the first ever Disneyland review of Tianas Bayou Adventure. Today, let's break down what it will be like if this exact clone or something very similar comes to Disneyland. Let's also break down the design of this ride, and lastly, do I think that it's better than Splash Mountain? I'm here to review the ride, and I'm here to review it from a Disneylander's perspective. So this is my review, breaking down the 3 big takeaways I have for Tianas Bayou Adventure. Let's go. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the design of the attraction. The queue is really fantastic. You can tell they went through and put every single detail they could imagine in the different queue scenes. No animatronics or talking characters on the queue. You're just literally walking through the restaurant, but it felt good, it felt adequate. There was a lot of fun things to look at, and I'm sure if you're more versed in the movie than I am, there's probably lots of little Easter eggs to find, like the car out front is missing its license plate because later on you will learn that one of the animals has copped that to make like a washboard style instrument out of it. I'm doing a walkthrough just to look at all the details of the queue, and it is so amazing, so many details. And I love that all of their family photos are cartoons, of course. And this is probably the one thing that Walt Disney World will definitely have over Disneyland, whereas they put so much more into their queues here. But then again, there is Toontown's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, where that concession stand is top notch. So you never know, but man, the queue through here is just, it's a work of art all on itself. And I know a lot of this rock work was already here, but all the little touches. Way to go, WDI. I care, I notice. I also want to point out how great the logo on the garbage can is. But if you look at it intensely, there is a perfect silhouette of Tiana's dress. So you have the plant life, but then if you look at it, there's the bell of the dress, the waistline cut, and then the bosom of the chest. So perfect silhouette of Tiana inside of the logo. Love that. Hiding that inside of the nature logo is well done. I love a good logo with double meaning. The FedEx logo that has the hidden arrow in it, or the best logo in sports, the original Milwaukee Brewers catcher's mitt, where it's an M sitting on a B. The baseball perfectly articulates the center of the B. I love hidden logos. And that one hiding Tiana's dress form inside of the logo is absolutely perfect. So well played, whoever did that. Amazing logo work on a trash can, which goes to show if you care that much about the trash can, what can you say for everything else? In the attraction itself, it feels pretty good. The scenes feel well thought out, well placed. I know this version has a much bigger showroom, so things are going to be tighter back home in Disneyland, and I think that that's going to be one of the perks when I get into my Disneyland review, is that I feel like the tighter footprint will work better for back home at Disneyland. But for here, it feels really good. As a Disneylander, it feels a lot brighter than what I was used to, but Walt Disney World people are complaining that it feels that it's not lit as bright as the old version was. There is a design decision they made though, where it used to be a continuous loop where you would just roll through and the animatronics were just doing the same thing on repeat all day. They are now triggered by infrared sensors. So when your boat goes by, it triggers a sensor that makes the animatronics then move and do their thing. So if it doesn't hit right, it's not going to feel right. And you see the characters kind of in just a slouching position until they tell you their little part of the story. So that, when it works, and it worked really well for mine, is awesome. But when it doesn't work, I'm sure that's going to be a big miss. And I feel like that probably has something to do with how the ride's breaking down. And I'm on a preview right now. We can't get another ride in because the attraction went down. Design-wise, I feel like that's going to be kind of a hassle for them. But also when we talk about design, it feels like, I'm going to say, a dark ride, flat ride story. It feels like a story that would be amazing in a flat boat ride inside of Fantasyland. And then because I'm so into story, I do have to say that it does have a nice 3-act story. And the middle act completely took me for a loop because I review everything from the theme park perspective only. I don't watch the movies. I look at everything as, does the ride stand on its own? So you can argue and fight with me in the comments below if you want to, but my thing is like, I'm not a Disney movies fan, I'm a Disney theme park fan. So I review everything based on how it fits into Disneyland, because that is my true love, and how does that story work as an attraction. And for somebody that knows nothing about Princess and the Frog, all 3 acts flow very, very well. And the middle act really kind of threw me for a loop. And I enjoy when Disney does get sort of psychedelic. However, I also enjoy when Disney gets evil and has villains and has stakes. And this attraction is missing some of the stakes that really made Splash Mountain feel like it was a dire situation. So that part, not stoked on. But taking that dark ride style storytelling and combining it with a thrill ride, that's where it loses a couple of points for me. And I was fortunate enough to ride with my bud Mike, who does the website Blog Mickey. He's rode it like 40 times already, and he was breaking down, and I agree with him, that there are no stakes. Splash Mountain had stakes, like you were trying to escape, you're trying to get away, so all of the falls make sense. This essentially feels like you're just taking a boat out to dinner. For that part of the overall ride design, that's where I would take a couple of points off my overall review. That being said though, the scenes do feel good, the animatronics look great, although not as articulated as what we saw in that Imagineering story short over on YouTube. They definitely were showing us all of the capabilities in that video that they made, but in the real world, they're not quite as animated. But I do love the idea of making animatronics that look more like cartoon characters. There are projections on there, which I don't know that it needs them in all of the scenes, but they also don't do a lot of heavy lifting. So it's not like it's a ride that is needing its projections. They're just kind of there to add in more depth, to add in more flavor. But the big scene that takes you into Act 2, the projections are quite awesome. I also feel like this will be an attraction that has a high re-rideability. You could literally ride it 100 times and not catch all the little details that WDI put in there for storytelling. Like, I caught the license plate thing, but there are probably 100 little storylines that go through there. For example, one of the frogs, when I looked over at its drum heads, that are basically opposite of the way you're going. So you only get to see that if your boat's going very slow. Ours just kind of stop, and I look back over my shoulder and I could see that the drum heads on the acorns were oversized bottle caps, and the bottle caps had articulation and writing on them. I just love that something that most folks will never see was completely designed and thought out. So as far as them putting their all into this, they definitely went hard on the storytelling, putting details everywhere, but they also knew that the stakes were high because of what Splash Mountain meant to generations of people that absolutely love this attraction. I think that if you give Tianas Bayou Adventure a fair shot, you will have room in your heart for this as well. If you love Disney parks and if you love Disneyland, I think there will be room in your heart for this because it does feel like a Disney attraction. It's at that quality of storytelling. It's at that quality of magic. A couple things are misses, but I also thought that a couple things were misses on Splash Mountain. It's not perfect, no ride is, but it's far from being an epic disaster or all the other things that I've seen on thumbnails. But oh, I've got so many videos to watch because I have been staying spoiler free so I could be blessed with this moment right now. Turns out it does rain in the bayou. I love this new rain effect. Now, friends, I just got to ride a new Disney ride for the first time ever, and it was awesome. So now let's move over to how will this fit inside of Disneyland. And this is where I believe I'm going to give it its highest marks. I think my guess all along has been this was designed for Disneyland, and then they would just bring it to Magic Kingdom. It will fit so well on the edge of New Orleans Square and on the edge of Critter Country. Let me explain. If you start at the beginning of New Orleans Square and you are at Pirates, then you go through the French Quarter, then you go to Haunted Mansion, and then you ride this, it feels like you're on the outskirts of town, which is great because the Haunted Mansion is supposed to be that creepy house that's out on the edge of town. So this feels like we've gone past the creepy house, we're exploring through the woods, and then we find our friends that live in a little small wooded community on the outskirts. So that part is fantastic. The music feels very New Orleans, but does feel like a party type celebration, which is great. So that fits in really well for back home. But then there's the critters. I was spoiler free. I didn't watch the POV. I didn't watch any of my friends' reviews. I wanted to see it and experience it with my own eyes, and I wanted to think about how will this fit into Disneyland. And the good news is, I think it will fit very, very well. When I came around the corners and I saw the various different critters play in their band, that part got me excited. I didn't anticipate that their scale would be so huge, and the critters all look really fun, very imaginative, very iconic. Like, these will become our new friends. And I love all the critters. So this being right next to Critter Country feels like a perfect hybrid between Mansion and Winnie the Pooh back home. Like, absolutely nailed it, way better than what I could have thought that they would. This will be awesome back home in Disneyland, perfectly made for Disneyland. And that has me super excited, because that was the part that I was kind of worried about the most. How will this fit in back home? And, you know, even though design wise, the ride system doesn't necessarily match the story, the theming, the vibe absolutely matches back home. All the fireflies, all the plants, even though they don't always look totally real, I do believe that they solved the problem of taking out such an iconic ride and trying to figure out a way to make it fit with its environment. And that's not always an easy thing to do. For me, storytelling is always first and foremost, and the story that it tells is a perfect Disneyland story. But I do feel like that this is a welcomed addition to Disneyland, and I had a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, that's what it should be, right? It should be about having fun. It flowed, the story was great, the music was awesome. I audibly laughed and had a good time when I saw all of the critters. It is a solid addition to the parks, and I think, as I predicted, will be an even more solid addition to Disneyland. This is gonna be awesome back home, and I'm so happy that I came out, saw it with my own eyes to figure out how will this fit in with Disneyland, and I think my answer is perfectly. Which gets into my third review. Is it better than Splash Mountain? So a couple of things to let you know my review compared to yours. Wasn't a big Splash Mountain fan. I am from the South, and I understand where that movie comes from, and I don't think that it's a good place. And the first time I rode Splash Mountain, I'm like, oh, it's kind of wild that this is still inside of the park. So that might be different than your views, and that's fine. We can all have our own opinions. But for me, I like that they remove parts that I didn't like and replace them with parts that I do like. It does a really great job of honoring the culture of New Orleans. It does a good job of honoring Black culture. And I find it inspiring that the attraction now showcases like the magic of that culture, versus before, to me, it always felt like a negative depiction. My 2 cents, if anybody goes to Disneyland or a Disney park, it should always feel included on things. And I just don't feel like Splash Mountain included everybody. I try to put myself through the mindset of a young Black girl riding this ride, and how amazing that would feel to her, and how proud the parents would be to bring their kid here and have that experience together as a family. And to me, that's what matters the most. People being able to come to the parks, feel represented, and feel like they got to see their culture celebrated in this great magical place. That's what matters to me. Maybe not to you, but that's how I judge these things. And ultimately, being a citizen of Disneyland is super important to me, where when people come here, I want everyone to feel welcome and like they can have a good time. And this attraction definitely embodies the citizen of Disneyland mindset. But aside from the cultural differences, what else did I like about this compared to the original version? Well, the original version had some of the catchiest songs ever. Like, I would just spend all day going, how do you do? Do 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 do. Like, I absolutely love that song. And I was worried about missing that music, and I won't say that I won't miss that music, but the songs in here, the Going Down the Bayou, it fits so well when you're in that log, literally going down the bayou. That I thought was gonna be a big miss, but it felt right. It felt really, really good. Like, I did get excited coming through there, hearing the music play. And you know, Disneyland and Disney attraction music is just, the more you hear it, the more it becomes muscle memory of good times. And one of the greatest things about Splash Mountain is that big grand finale. And although I will definitely miss the riverboat, because I was born on the banks of the Ohio River, shout out to the Delta Queen and the Bella Louisville, my 2 hometown steamboats. I will definitely miss the big steamboat, but the grand finale on this one is awesome. Like all the characters, all the good times. If there was a place that I would want to get stuck in this ride, it would be floating right in front of that show scene. That part went too fast. That's the part that I can't wait to see again. This is just a hard reboot, a cleaning of the slate, and it just feels good to go into a ride that elevates and celebrates people versus a ride that disparages and insults people. I mean, simply put, it is definitely an improvement culturally. So storytelling, I give it a thumbs up. The story combining with the action, I give it a little bit of a thumbs down. And I started out of this saying, not a big Splash Mountain guy, won't be a big Tianas Bayou adventure guy. I will ride it if somebody comes in from out of town that wants to ride it. I just don't like getting wet. And did I ever get drenched? Yeah, so the big drop still pays off, still drenches you, still gets you, and is still a lot of fun. Like, I've just dedicated this morning to riding this ride, so I don't care about the consequences, but I will not be riding this when I come back. This isn't a ride that's traditionally for me. However, I do understand that it is for some people, and I celebrate that. And I feel like this will be a strong, welcoming addition to Disneyland. So across the board, design, I'm gonna give it a 6. Fitting in with Disneyland, I'm gonna give it a 9. And do I like it more or less? I'm gonna give it a 7. So there are my rankings. I'll total up whatever that number is. Best would be 30, and that's what I came up with. But yeah, I'm so glad I got to ride it, and I'm super excited for this to show up back home in Disneyland. I hope you enjoyed this quick review. Can't wait to see what some of your hot takes are in the comments below. And I'm excited that I got to see Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I cannot wait to see this back home in Disneyland. This is going to be such an awesome addition and just a perfect transition from New Orleans to Critter Country, which at the end of the day, that's all I wanted. Brickey here on the edge of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you. One last thought I want to add. It's a really good time. It is a really, really good time. The music, the vibe, it's fun, and I like fun things. And this is what it looks like when I got up off of a bench after riding 4 times. I am soaked.